and Brian. And I believe voting is open. Please vote. Thank you. Brian voted aye. Brian was second.
You can't vote to have herself.
Till we let her in. So to clarify, we all need to re-vote. Member Elsesser votes aye. All right, welcome Member Allison. First up, approval of the minutes. If I could get a motion and second, please. Member Daly and Member Williams. Are there any corrections or changes? I believe voting is open. Please vote. Member Elsesser votes aye. I think we lost her.
This is Jennifer. I'm here. I'm also an aye.
She was voting on her iPad earlier. Do we still need to call on her, or? Okay, thank you. All right, next up we have informational items. First up, public defender. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Kevin Lowe, Peoria County Public Defender. It's good to be back. It's good to see everyone again. You guys know I report on a quarterly basis now instead of a monthly basis. Real quick, just a couple of updates. Let me start with staffing. Over the past few months, we have unfortunately lost some personnel. As you guys are well familiar, we have a hybrid model of service. We have full-time attorneys and we have part-time independent contractors. We have 6 full-time attorneys. That includes me, and the remainder are independent contractors. We lost 3 of our contractors over the past few months. And I just wanted to point out a couple of them in particular. Karen Camp became a judge, so I wanted to recognize and acknowledge her lengthy tenure as an assistant public defender in both the misdemeanor and the juvenile courts. She had also served in her capacity as a guardian ad litem up there in the juvenile abuse and neglect courts. So she was a mainstay of public defense in Peoria County for quite some time, and we really appreciate the service that she's provided to the county. And I can tell you that we already miss her considerable talents. That said, we are so very proud of her and her accomplishments. I speak for the entire public defender's office when I say that she is going to be a great, great judge. So Karen Camp, thank you for the years of service to Peoria County. The next person we are going to miss dearly is Kip Shelby. He also has been one of our contractors, has been with the office for quite some time. He was with us in the capacity of a felony attorney for a while in our felony division, and then more recently in the misdemeanor courtroom alongside Karen Camp. He too, after many years of service to Peoria County, is leaving, and so we wish him the very best. And then finally, Susan O'Neill had left a few months ago. She was not with us for very long, but she provided service in the problem-solving courts. So we wish Susan very well in all her future endeavors. So certainly, we as far as staffing, I'm comfortable to say we've never really been fully staffed, and now we're even lower. That said, I have ultimate confidence and faith in my attorneys and their abilities, and I'm confident that we will continue to provide a wonderful service to Peoria County. So I'm not concerned. However, we are doubling our efforts in recruitment. We just had an interview yesterday with an entry level attorney coming out of law school, and we hope that provides some dividends there. We have another interview set up for next week, so we continue our efforts there. As far as so the overall levels, then that means we're down from 22 attorneys down to 19. As I mentioned, 16 full-time attorneys. That leaves us with 13 part-time contractors. One positive note: our administrative staff increased. We used to have 2. We now have 3. We used to have our Kristen Collins, who is our office manager, and we had our full-time receptionist Leslie Holiday. We now have added a paralegal, so she's been very helpful, immediate impact on our office. So that's great. That's a positive note for sure. She's been a really good fit with our office. Her name is Daniela Martinez. As far as the overall level of services provided, I've attached the tables of our caseload analysis to my quarterly report. And as I mentioned last time, it appears that these numbers remain largely constant. I mean, they're very consistent, no major deviations, it seems. If you look at the numbers for the third quarter of 2024, in the felony division, of the 242 new cases filed that were proceeding forward, the public defender's office was appointed in 214 of those 242 cases, and that equals 88.4% of that caseload. Misdemeanor division even higher. We were appointed in 244 of the 257 cases. That equals 94.9% of the caseload. The DUI courtroom, in contrast, again, I've mentioned this before, but of all categories, we are appointed the least often in DUI cases, just because the overall and across the board demographic of the defendants in that particular courtroom, they tend to be just better positioned to hire private counsel. In that particular quarter 3 of 2024, we were appointed in 41 of 97 cases. So it's below 50% of the time. But then in juvenile delinquency, 89 out of 93 cases, 95.7% of the cases, we were appointed domestic violence, 31 out of 36 for 86.1%. And as I said, that remains fairly constant, pretty consistent. Table 2 just basically adds up the first 3 quarters of 2024 and runs the same analysis. So just, I guess, January through the end of the third quarter being September 30th. And looking at those, again, the numbers are percentages are pretty similar. And when you go to the overall totals, I'm comfortable in saying if someone just asked me, give me a ballpark of what's the percentage of criminal cases that you represent in Peoria County? Well, 85%. That's a pretty good estimation right there. Of course, it deviates from courtroom to courtroom, just depending. Obviously, the contrast, the DUI where we're generally 50%, a little bit less, to something like the delinquency courtroom, where we're always at 95%, if not higher. And then I've been keeping track of the detention hearings handled by month. So now we have the figures for the entire year of 2024. And no surprise, I mentioned last time, we handle the vast majority of this. Almost all detention hearings are handled by our office. In 2024, there were a total of 702 detention hearings, and we handled 685 of those. And that represents 97.6%. And finally, in Table 5, problem-solving courts, again, I've mentioned before, we handle 100% of those cases, although the overall volume in those courtrooms is not as great as the other problem-solving courts have. Right now, it looks like a total of around 107 people. So with that said, then, any questions, if any, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you for the very detailed report. I know we've talked several times about contracts and employees. It's nice to see what that workload is and visualize it. Does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, the PCAPS monthly report.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. You have in my monthly report the numbers for year-to-date for 2024. 2024 was an exciting year for us. Over 6,000 animals came into the shelter. We haven't seen animal intake numbers like that for upwards of about 12 years in animal sheltering. And largely in part that's due to a lot of animals that were confiscated as a part of a growing number of cruelty cases in our department, as well as stray and owner-surrendered animals, but record number of intake for us. At the same hand, we are now hiring a full-time and part-time kennel technician. We had an internal promotion from a part-time kennel technician to a full-time animal control officer, so that's exciting, and filled that vacancy that had been there for some time. And so now we are hiring to backfill the part-time position and for the new full-time position, and we're excited about that. But that's all I had to add.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Becky? All right. I'm going to rearrange the agenda just a little bit, so if you want to stay there. We have two resolutions up today. The first one, although it is the second item under resolutions, is a PCAPS Cat Donation Award. You could provide some detail on that. Can I get a motion actually first to put this on the floor? Member Williams and Member Rosenbaum. Thank you.
All right, so this was a $2,000 donation that came in from a generous volunteer. Cindy and Joel Peterson were previous volunteers with our organization before they moved out of town to be with family in New Mexico. So we're very excited that even from afar, they continue to support us in our cat programs. We are looking to use the donation funds to purchase live traps and accessories for live traps, upgrading some of the equipment that we have, and expanding our enrichment program for the cats in our care, as well as anything else that we find along the way that the cat supplies that we may need in 2025.
Are there any questions on this? All right. Oh, I'm sorry, Member Elsasser. We're going to vote, yes. Yes. You're good. All right, I believe voting is open. Member Elsasser, how would you like to vote? And Member Allison, how would you like to vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Next up, we have the JAG Transportation Assistance Grant. If I could get a motion to put that on the floor. Member Daly and Member Bryant, thank you. Welcome.
Hello. Yes, I just want to preface this by saying we realize this is very, very poor timing in regards to the federal funding freeze that has just been announced. But this has been on the agenda now for a week or so, so this was before that all happened. So I'll go through this and then we can address any questions. This is a $50,000 grant that we received for the first time last year for the time period of October 23 through September of 24. That grant allowed for a one-year renewal, which we were again awarded. So we are asking for acceptance of this grant and to appropriate those funds into our fiscal year 25 budget. Because of this following the federal fiscal year, we didn't know about the grant when we were working on our budget for this calendar year. So that's why these funds were not included in our initial budget request. So do you have any questions about that?
Does anyone have any questions? All right. Seeing none, I believe voting is open. Member Elsesser, how would you like to vote? And Member Allison, how would you like to vote?
Aye.
All right, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion today? Does anyone have any comments? Is there any public comment? Miscellaneous? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.